leading into LSU, this is the game of the weekend, I would say. I mean, there's some good matchups, but where LSU is right now, obviously losing to Vanderbilt 31-24 last Saturday. You and I both watched that game in full. I mean, I'm going to be honest, after when you watched, 2019 LSU, how prolific that offense was, how everything was clicking, how really they had strengths on both sides of the ball. LSU has become a one-dimensional team right now. They are really defense only. They have one of the worst running back performances, even though, rushing attacks.
Rushing attacks, yeah.
Typically, I think they're averaging like 108 or 110 yards per carry.
Probably less than that.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Or per game, per carry. Choose. And two very talented running backs. I mean, but that stems from bad O-line play. Garrett Nussmeier was under attack all game, and this was a Vanderbilt pass rush that's respectable. It's the way Clark Lee's an excellent defensive coach, so the way they attacked him was strategic, and it obviously, got, I think it was over 20 pressures from Pro Football Focus in that game. But again, I'm not impressed with this team right now. I don't think that Brian Kelly thought they'd be at this point going into, week 9. I almost think that maybe one loss. I mean, losing to Ole Miss on the road is understandable. Now, after seeing Georgia beat them 43-35 in a track meet similar to Arkansas A&M, not a good look, because I forget what the score was. I think it was like 24-21 when LSU lost to Ole Miss on the road, but they've had scoring problems all year. I think they're averaging, it's like 24 points a game. Nussmeier just doesn't look the same. But again, he's under pressure a lot. He's still a very good quarterback. We were talking pre-show, several great throws in that game, but it just wasn't enough to get it done. The defense, which, great talent. Obviously, that secondary has looked fantastic for most of the season. There were open holes for Diego Pavia to just run through. I mean, it just looks like a team that's in disarray right now. And the fact that we were just doing the betting odds, LSU is a 2.5-point underdog at home right now, according to most sports books. It's a weird time, man. I mean, this was a game that if this was a couple of years back, LSU would probably be like an 8.5-point favorite, 7.5 at least. And
there's a certain you can't name it. It's a certain je ne sais quoi, where it's just that certain something, whether good or bad, about this LSU team is where they have shown you who they are already, and they've continued along this same path. You said at the start, they seem to be a one-dimensional team, where it's that their defense is really their statement mark right now. This is complete 180 from where it was 2 years ago, where they were, the best offense in all of college football, but they went 9-3 because their defense couldn't stop anything. Mm-hmm. They brought in Blake Baker from Missouri, and he essentially changed the defense up entirely. I know he's from LSU, but by way of Missouri, but Blake Baker has really turned around this defense, and it definitely has some studs on the defensive side. They brought in AJ Halsey from Houston. They brought in Marcus Cooley from, I believe, Virginia Tech. I could be wrong there, but this is a defense that has been revamped and just changed under the mentality that they needed to get better. We thought preseason going into this game that this would be one of, if not the hardest matchup for the Aggies, because it's at Death Valley and it's one of the worst places to have to play if you're an opposing squad. So in this game, can you repeat the blueprint that Vanderbilt gave you, right? I think there were 3 things that stood out to me about that game this past week when Vandy played them. They dominated time of possession. They didn't rush themselves, right?
Yeah.
And they got all their playmakers involved. I know we say a lot about how Diego Pavia played, but they got a lot of their playmakers involved.
Yeah.
I think if you have all of these 3 things, that balanced attack, that you can have this same repeat kind of thing that you saw where Vanderbilt just beat them handedly.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I I don't think you and I are very worried about this game. And that's what's crazy, right? Because we were worried about pretty much every game before this about a potential A&M slip up, especially Arkansas, right? Both you and I think our predictions were pretty on the nose. I think I picked them to win like 35-27. It was all very close. I mean, they ended up winning by 3 points. So those type of games right now in the SEC are what's tripping almost every team up. And you think on the surface, like going to Baton Rouge, it's a night game. It's sold out. It's LSU. You haven't won a game in Death Valley since, again, this guy was born 1994. I was a wee little baby at that time. So, again, and that was, a different LSU program, different A&M program. But at the same time, this is the perfect chance. You are the better team. You are the more balanced team. You have more playmate. That's the crazy thing, right? I shouldn't say that because this is a team that has Davion Thomas, Barryon Brown, Nick Anderson, Chris Hilton, Aaron Anderson is back. They have a ton of speed and talent at wide receiver, and this is a 5-2 team, 2-2 in the SEC. It's crazy, and they have problems scoring. Like that's what's just nuts to me. And we were going to have an LSU guest on. Things dropped out at the last minute, but I think they'd be saying the same thing, whoever it was. They are just not even close to living up to the standard of LSU football right now. Because what's hilarious too, I always mention the Dallas Cowboys, which is kind of funny. Different team now, so we'll just talk about Jerry trades Micah Parsons, wants to stop the run. So they've had moments where the run stopping has been better, but one thing gets better, the other thing gets worse. That type of deal that happens all the time. So LSU secondary was horrid. It was literally a trash can type of performance every week. And now it's one of the better units in the country. But again, that's not going to win you games all the time because A&M has been in their shoes. They've had really good defenses, very subpar to average offense. And that's not going to win you games consistently. Now, A&M has the better offense. They have the more confident offense. They have 2 wide receivers, maybe 3 wide receivers if we're throwing an Ashton Bethel-Roman if he's really gaining steam right now that can kill you in a variety of ways. And we saw, that's really what opened up Ashton Bethel-Roman in that game. Like he had one-on-one coverage pretty much the entire game because they were bracketing Casey Concepcion at some points. They were really focusing on Mario Craver because Craver, to be honest, is considered the top wide receiver in the country right now by a lot of metrics. And we can actually talk about the end of the game where he's at statistically. But Marshall Reed is playing at such a high level right now because, I don't want anybody saying that Arkansas, well, it's Arkansas's defense. That's why he played well. No. Okay. Because he has come to the point of, I have this perfect symbiotic relationship with both Mike Elko and Colin Klein to the point of Colin Klein knows my strengths. He knows my weaknesses. I don't think there's a lot of weaknesses right now, but all the tendencies, everything that he tends to do a little too much of is the same thing we talked about against, I think it was against Florida where he was double clutching a little too much. We didn't see any double clutching against Arkansas. All those issues he had, he's fixing them game by game, which produced 280 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a rushing score. So I really don't think that even though he's playing against a good defense, he's going to be phased one bit. And by the way, this is a young man who's already won in the swamp. He's now won against a Arkansas team that we just talked about for the last 20 minutes, has one of the most dangerous offenses in the country. He's seen it all. I get he hasn't played at LSU yet because he's only been the starter. This is the first full season. It's just another challenge. It's just another box to check for this program. And I get, it's daunting. And, it's a game on ABC. It's a primetime game because of, the stakes for LSU right now. Really, Brian Kelly in general of his future. Because we do know that if this was any other program, 5-2 is not going to get you fired, right? It's not. We're not really going to even talk about that, right? But at LSU, 5-3,
their level of standard is much higher. They expect to win championships in year out.
Exactly. So it's and so when I look at this roster, and I hate Will even more so during the week. The biggest weakness is O-line. We both knew that losing their bookend starters last year, that was really the main reason why Garrett Nussmeier was able to have such a proficient season from the pocket. You lose those guys to the NFL, you're just throwing in new guys, and we know that tackle play is so important in this league.
It really is.
You look at, we're talking about PFF grades, you look at Trey Zune, one of the highest rated pass protectors in the country right now. Demetrius Crown over the right tackle's been excellent. Ruben Fatherly has been one of the top pass protectors. Their interior is doing a great job inside. Again, yes, Marcelli being protected is helping him tremendously. He's having a similar season, kind of like to what Nussmeier was doing. You see, any other quarterback in the SEC right now that's getting adequate protection is doing pretty well. And you see, like Auburn Tigers, one of the worst pass protection teams. I think they've allowed like 27 sacks on the year. They can't keep a quarterback, right now, and they're going up and down. Jackson Arnold's still starting there, but the poor kid's getting, hammered every other play. So, it's my last point. I'll let you get in. It's just crazy to me that, I just saw all offseason the high expectations, and LSU's a national championship contender, but nobody really kind of talked about the O-line. They said they kind of we'll figure it out. It's like, okay, well, you haven't figured it out yet, and now you're going to be facing A&M's defensive line, which I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Those guys are hungry because they got embarrassed last week. That is not the standard. Mike Elko said after the game, that is not the standard of our Texas A&M. That is not the standard of our defense. He didn't give them 1 ounce of credit, and that's going to fuel those guys, especially Cassius Howe, who is now going to be going after backup left tackle, who's actually naturally a center, DJ Chester. Left tackle Tyree Adams is now out for several games. It could get ugly.
I think it's important to know how big of an injury that is, because Tyree Adams, although not performing at the level that their 2 NFL level tackles were last season, he's adequately trying to give Garrett Nussmeier the best chance he can back there, and that's a big blow for their offensive line, because that left side, that's where Cassius Howell is coming off of, right?
Yeah.
So Cassius Howell is going to be going against DJ Chester. There's been some reports saying that Carius Curran, a true freshman, could be getting some play time over there, because
it's not better.
It's not better.
Yeah, exactly.
Because when DJ Chester was replacing Tyree Adams in this game, he had one of the worst PFF graded by pass or rush protection in the country this past week against Vanderbilt.
Yes, I believe I saw a Vanderbilt defensive end, maybe a defensive tackle, basically push him just back.
It was a linebacker.
Okay, that's even worse. So we're going to see a lot of simulated blitzes. We're going to see a lot of angles. I think Mike Elko might have a field day with the way he can move these guys around, because what we do know about A&M's defensive line, linebacker rotation, and secondary, especially their 2 safeties, speed is everything. And when you can blitz in a variety of ways and just send pressure against this young and semi-experienced O-line, but they've had a lot of issues all season. This is the reason why I've seen all week that LSU fans are very worried about Garrett Nussmeier, because this could become a sloppy game. And I'm not saying, see, that's the thing. I expect A&M's offense to do well. I really do, because I see the numbers. I get it. They're one of the better overall defenses. They do well in the secondary. They obviously stop the run at an adequate pace. But A&M really hasn't been phased yet by one of those top defenses. We saw against Auburn the entire week. We're going to stop the run. You're not running on us. I think they had, 200 yards plus running? Yeah. So the scheme, the blocking up front, the versatility they have in the running back room now, I think that E.J. Smith could end up having a big game in this one. I think his physicality, how he meshes perfectly with what Ruben Owens wants to do. He's more of the speed, agility guy, where E.J. Smith just wants to hammer it in. He looks like one of the more physical backs on this roster right now, which is pretty incredible, because he was more of a versatile running back coming out of the high school ranks. Obviously, his first cut 2 or 3 seasons at Stanford. So they've really found something with that group. And like I said, you can get Delane to cover Casey Concepcion or Mario Craver all night and shut them down, but they're just going to get Terry Bussey open. That's going to get Ashton Bethel Roman open. That's going to get either Concepcion or Craver open on those middle mesh routes. You can tell I'm tired here. And a lot of the same game plan they had, I believe, is what you're going to see against this defense, is that get them off kilter. Yeah, you're going to take some deep shots when there's one-on-one coverage, but they just can't keep it low scoring all night. And LSU's going to have to respond. And I'm going to be honest, unless he just hits perfectly on a couple deep shots, or, they get something going in the middle of the field, Nussmeier's going to have a really hard time getting the ball away. And now, I will say, like, A&M's defense could struggle then. We don't know that. It's a week-by-week league. Like, we don't think that, even though I think that they're going to improve because they were embarrassed, this could easily be a higher scoring game. I just think that when you're coming off a game like that where you allow over 500 yards and, like, it's over 260 yards on the ground, you're going to change some things up because that's not happening again.
Let's be honest. The thing that's not happening is probably letting near 150 yards of rushing to this LSU team. I think that's the thing that even LSU fans are safe to say that their complaints have fallen on deaf ears at this point with their rushing attack. I love Garrett Nussmeier as a quarterback. I think he has those NFL level skills and these plays where you're just like, man, that was an incredible throw. How did he find that receiver there? But there comes a time when you are asking a quarterback to do too much. We saw it last night where Baker Mayfield was taking out the Lions in a game from behind where they just had to go down the field 11 pass plays in a row. And as much as I love Baker Mayfield, as much as I know you probably love Baker Mayfield, there comes a time when asking a quarterback to do too much is detrimental to your offense, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, that's a perfect point. You can tell I'm a little tired today. At LSU, when we said it, we said it at the beginning of the show, they have one of the worst rushing attacks. I think it's dead last in the SEC right now, despite having a talented running back room. So it's you need that give and take. You need that balance to have any sort of, well-oiled machine, as you could say. It's just that's why Nussmeier. I'm not saying he regrets coming back this season, but at the same time, it's got to be in the back of his head. Like, I thought I'd get better protection up front, and I thought I'd at least have an average running game to help balance things out. Because even though you have all that talent at wide receiver, if you can't run the ball and they're just teeing off on you every single play, I mean, you're really just kind of have to heave it up and hope for the best. Like we saw with Xavier Thomas against Vanderbilt, where that was like a screen that he kind of just threw it away, and Thomas got it.
Let's be honest, Xavier Thomas broke 7 people out of
their team. Credit to him. He's an excellent athlete. He was a cool scorer, but
in terms of someone who you're going to have to keep an eye on, I think this is a game where Xavier Thomas, if they want a chance to win, Xavier Thomas is going to have
a big game.
Exactly. But this is an LSU team that they have shown people who they are already. It's just a matter of, are they going to be able to change it at home, where they've already shown at home that they're doing the same things that they're doing on the road?
No, I don't believe it. I don't see it. I think it's too far in the seat. And credit to myself, a little pat on my back right here.
We'll tell you.
I did say that A&M would be undefeated going into this game, but I don't see it happening because they had games that you should blow out certain opponents to start the season. They were struggling early. Yeah, they got away late. And when you're doing that, you know something's wrong. I go back to the A&M season that they lost to Appalachian State, 2022. I think it was after they beat Sam Houston. And this is a game where this is my first season with Aggies Wire covering the Aggies. And it was Jimbo Fisher after the game, just when they were asking him how he thought his offense was playing, and he's just kind of like, yeah, we got a lot to work on, right? They obviously had a lot to work on because they lost to Appalachian State the next week. Right. So it was just one of those seasons where I'm like, I'm not saying this is similar, but when you have so many problems and you don't have a similar trajectory like A&M is having this year, where we've been talking through about the entire show, is that you can win in multiple ways. Like, again, Elko after the game when they won, what was your message? Well, our defense wasn't showing up, so I had to focus on the offense. And that produced you 45 points, and you won by 3 points. And if you didn't have any offense in that game, you would have lost by 2 scores, right? So you can literally focus on both areas when you need to. if one area doesn't show up. And so if you don't have that, if you don't even have anything to rest your laurels on that you can get through a game with that unit and trust them, it's going to be very, very long. And if they lose to A&M on Saturday night, this ain't going to be the first. This is probably going to be, the third. And you're going to drop another one late. And you might drop another one late because you just don't have anything that you know is the definite strength that you can go into every game and go, this is what we're going to do. Especially, for example, Wisconsin's a great example. I always go back to. They are a running team. Right now, they are lost. They don't have an identity. Like, the fact is that there hasn't been a coaching change there is actually a little confusing to me. But no matter the coaching regime that's been there, they run the ball effectively. They're going to beat you on the ground. If they lose the game, at least they tried to beat you on the ground and they won the rushing game, and they kept things balanced enough. LSU just hasn't found that yet. And when you're facing a team as hot as A&M is, and the way they've won the last 2 games just in dominant fashion on both sides of the ball, and I get it was a 3-point win, but they were dominant on offense. I mean, even when Marcel Reed ran for that touchdown was called back, they were about to win like 52-42. I mean, all they did was score every drive except for 2. That's dominant. The defense gave a lot of points, but outside of one moment in that game where they were up 38-35, nobody thought A&M was losing that game, because every time they got the ball back, I remember the announcer just like, well, I mean, Arkansas can feel good about this, but, A&M scored on every drive. So, I mean, this is just going to be one of those games. And when you can do that, it's going to take, I'm not going to say a miracle, but it's going to take the best game we've seen from LSU all season to get this done, in my opinion. And it's going to take A&M not showing up to lose this game.
I tend to agree with you. And then we'll wrap the show off with this. If you want to make predictions, I think you and I are ready to make them, because I think from the sound of what we've been talking about tonight, we feel like this game script has been unraveled before because of what we've seen from both teams so far. Is this a game where you can go into an extremely hostile environment in Death Valley and completely have a different game plan or game script? Absolutely. But we've also seen other teams go into Death Valley already and do what they do. But we've also seen LSU at home do the exact same things they've done on the road. This is a team that only scores around 20 points per game, even at home. That's just not going to cut it with a team that A&M, who is averaging around, I believe, in the mid-30s.
36, I think, last time I saw. Yeah.
I don't think that's going to cut it. You?
No. And instead of giving an elongated answer, which I just did, which I hope that all made sense. I really got on some tangents there about Wisconsin. But no, I completely agree. It's just, and that's really what I'm trying to say, is that if they were better at home, I'd probably be picking LSU. That's really as basic as it is. If they were just a bad road team, which we see with almost every SEC team all season, the fact is that we haven't seen that from A&M yet, because they beat Notre Dame in a track race in week 3 in South Bend. I don't think another team is going to beat Notre Dame in South Bend the rest of the season. So they got that done. And then they beat Arkansas, obviously, last Saturday in a game that was very similar and, equally important in the way of how, if we're going to be a playoff team, these are the type of performances we have to have, because we're going to face probably maybe not quarterbacks like Taylor Green, but you're going to face some quarterbacks that are going to have similar performances, especially if your defense doesn't show up again. So they know how to win in all these environments. And it goes back to last season with Florida on the road. Marcel Reed making his first start, making a couple incredible throws, them controlling the line of scrimmage, running the ball at will against a Florida team that was desperate and that had every Florida fan in the Gainesville area show up, and still A&M dominated that game. So they've shown the ability under Mike Elko to get this done. It's the first time in Baton Rouge for Mike Elko as the head coach. It's the first time for Marcel Reed. It's the first time for a lot of players on this team outside of, a couple returning starters who were here obviously during the 2023 season. But again, that game was a meaningless game at the end of the year. It was when A&M and LSU played each other at the end of the season as the primary rivalry before Texas entered the SEC. I think it was like an early afternoon game. It was you know, it was against LSU's horrific offense. Jalen Henderson was the quarterback. I mean, we'd have to go back a while, and that was a lost season. I remember we were already kind of checked out as writers of like moving on to basketball at that point. So there's a lot of new here, and there's a lot of boxes to be checked. But I think A&M is just a hotter team. I think they're extremely confident after winning the way they did. And I'm going to be honest, I just don't think they're scared of LSU. I think they faced Garrett Nussmeier and the similar offense that's up a couple of pieces last season in Kyle Field in a game where they had to come back to win at home. So, I mean, they know them. They know Nussmeier, and they know his tendencies, and they know that this offense isn't even close what it was last year. It's lost. It's just kind of all over the place. And mainly, if they can't run the ball, game over. I just don't see it unless LSU's defense completely just shuts down A&M, and this is a low-scoring game. I just don't see that happening. So I'm going to take A&M 27-20.
Okay, a little conservative on the offensive side there, I see, because of their
but I think on the road. I mean, it could get in the 30s, but it could also be an ugly game. I don't know. I'm always kind of weird about that. It was the same with Arkansas. You know, I don't think weather's going to be an issue either, but you know, you never know. You know, I didn't know it was going to like torrential rainfall before the game.
True. I mean, they definitely could have another one of those games where it's a little bit damp going in.
Yeah. So I was on the lower side.
Here's how I see this game trip going in my head. I think this is finally the time that we see a Randy Bond game. I think this is one of those games that you are going to see probably around at least 4+ field goal attempts because of how good Blake Baker has this LSU defense playing. Okay. I think this LSU defense is a very, very big definition of bend, not break, but their offense just has not been able to kind of keep up with what their defense is able to help them out with. We've seen this also with, you know, Hugh Freeze's Auburn as well. We kind of saw that in that game we've already had. Mm-hmm. So here's kind of how I think, and maybe you can tell me if I'm a little bit wrong in thinking this. I think this is a game that we see Randy Bond just kind of take over and kind of just help A&M kind of boost their way through this kind of hostile environment. So I have this game 33-24. I think that this is a game where if my game script in my head is right, I think Randy Bond walks out of there with like 4+ field goals. I think this is a game where you might struggle to get touchdowns kind of with those explosive plays immediately. But if you do, this game's going to get out of hand. So that's where my prediction now, 33-24, A&M wins going in. I know it really hasn't been done in a very long time. And LSU is also, I believe, 18-1 at home at night in Death Valley. But I think this is
that's crazy.
It's a great set to have, right? Yeah. But this is also an A&M team who is ready to have their own historic moment. I think this is one of those times.